Hello YouTube. In this video I'm going to talk about when snapcity occurs. In the description I will plug the video where I discussed the where, and in this segment I introduced the idea and the concept of the red zone that I think is really important to understand if you want to be able to assess the risk to reward ratio of the range of motion of any lift you do. But today we're going to talk about the portion of injury prevention that almost everyone focuses on. At least nowadays, meaning that when YouTube Fitness first started, everyone was talking about the wear, because the wear is technique, it's form, and at first everyone attached the prevention of injury to the way you lifted. And that's correct. To this day, it still remains correct. But it was missing a big portion of it, which was the when. What parameters come into play that are going to be outside of the spatial realm that are going to make it so that on that day you got injured. So there are a few things that need to be taken into account here. The first one is going to be the weight selection, because the most obvious reason why you got injured is you used a weight that was way too high for you and therefore you got snapped. But when you think about it, the reason why you got snapped is because the when had an impact on the where. The amount of weight made it so that your form was compromised and you snapped something, which is the reason why when you hear people who try to relativize and who say there's no such thing as bad form, it's incorrect. Because if you say there's no such thing as bad form, you're also implying that the parameters of weight selection don't play a role in injury prevention, which is not correct. You never want to use a weight that is going to greatly compromise form. In my opinion, for bodybuilding, form breakdown is not acceptable. The 10th rep needs to look just as crisp as the first rep. The only difference is going to be the speed of the rep, that's it. If you look completely different technique-wise on the last rep, you're doing something wrong, so you need to stop. The second iteration of the when is going to be your fatigue. Where are you standing in this week? How much work have you done so far in the week? Are you fresh going into the workout, or is it your second leg day, your third leg day? Is your lower back a little bit tired? How much volume have you accumulated? All of that is super important. This is why you cannot just skip programming. Programming is not just a way to see into the future for progression. It's also a way to look into the past for the amount of fatigue accumulated so that you can prevent injury in the moment. It's tri-dimensional. It is the past, the present, and the future all together into a trinity. Again, the concept of trinity comes back a lot, just like with the volume, intensity, and frequency aspect. So this is key, and this is something actually that the modern YouTube Fitness does extremely well. It does a good job at showing that stress is a normal component of the workout, because if you didn't get stressed, your muscles wouldn't grow, but that the accumulation of stress and the control of it, how you get it in and how you actually manage to dispatch it in the training is just as important, and it needs to be tracked at all times, because when you track it, you have the perfect understanding of how you're going to enter a future workout to prevent injury. So that's another when. And then there's a factor that is not really talked about much, but that to me might be the most important, and that's external factors. So, for example, how focused are you during the lift? Are you being hassled by someone in the gym that is telling you that you make too much noise? Are you stressed out outside of the gym? Are you entering the workout stressed? All of that is important because stress is a factor of injury. And I'm going to go as far as to say that for certain injuries like tendinitis, it is the main factor. It might be even more important than form, because stress builds up inflammation in the body. I highly believe in that, meaning that even if I have zero change in the where and the when of the aspects I just described, if I have a very high stress day, my old tendinitis is going to flare up out of nowhere because of something that can be only described as a psychological effect. So it needs to be controlled as well. And as you see when I'm describing this, you clearly understand that the where and the when come together. They cannot be understood without one another, just like with programming. Volume doesn't exist without intensity. So the two of them need to be understood together. If one is discussed and not the other, it negates the other. It needs to be prevented. So for the when, as I just described, the obvious way to get around it is programming. It's to have a clear understanding of what is going on at all times. The where is going to be the awareness of the body in the moment. The when is going to be the awareness of the body in time. And next time, I'm going to talk about the how. And the how is going to be a little bit more scientific in nature, even though I'm not going to cite any papers, I'm just going to tell you what I've observed. But when the when and the where coincide and they create injury, the injury occurs a certain way. It's never random, it's rarely freakish, it's always something that could have been predicted, and when it happens, it is predictable. It's something that we know what's going to happen, we know exactly how it's going to happen, and therefore, if we understand these factors, we can make sure that it never does, because to me, bodybuilding is a safe practice. You should be able to train for 10 years with 0 injuries. So I'm going to get back to you next time. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.